This is not going to be an easy video. Rematch is the latest game by Sloclap, the developers behind Sifu, which in a very surprising twist have decided to make a multiplayer football game that could be easily described as Rocket League but with people. Now don't be worried if you don't like football, because that is actually one of the smaller parts of the game. Sure, it is a football game, but a lot of what is spectacular about Rematch, a lot of what makes it one of the most fun, compelling, deep multiplayer games that I have ever played has absolutely nothing to do with the football part of it. And I absolutely love Rematch. I have played all 3 of the beta tests, and I have put in over 10 hours to the release version of the game, and I have a lot of praise to give it. It is a superbly designed game from top to bottom, and we will talk about all of the wonderful things that it does to see if it's something that would be worth you and your friends' time and money. But you read the title and the thumbnail of this video, so you know that I do not recommend it right now. And that does break my heart, because I absolutely love this game. You see, when Rematch works, it's what I said before, one of the best multiplayer games I've ever played. It is just so much fun, it is so dynamic, it keeps you on edge, it has just the right length for matches to be quite casual, and you can jump in and have a good time after work, and it has the depth and the skill ceiling to be very competitive if you want it to be. Unfortunately, it is not really working very well at the moment, and in my opinion, it is working less well than it was working during the beta tests, which, hey, that's not great. But part of the guiding principles that I have on this channel is that I try and focus on the positive whenever I can. There's just way too much negativity in, I guess, the gaming space, but I'd say the world at the moment. And once again, I really love Rematch. So the way that this video is going to work is as follows. I'm going to tell you all of the reasons I think Rematch is great and why it should be, at the minimum, on your radar, wishlisted. You should be paying attention to it. You should just be curious about it, at least, even if you have no interest in football. And using the timestamps below, whether I convince you at any point or you know that it's not for you, if you want to know why I don't recommend it right now, all of the technical problems that are plaguing the game at the moment, you can skip to that section of the video. So hi, I'm Mug, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. It's really good to see you. Hashtag Hot Gamer Summer continues, and you're doing a great job at it because you're looking fantastic. As per usual, if at any point you enjoy the video, make sure to hit the like button. It's the best way to support the channel and have this video reach more people, trend through the algorithm. And if you really like the way that I cover games, that I do my news, reviews, and retrospectives on the channel, don't subscribe yet. Let me earn your subscription. Make sure that what I do is worth your time, so you can do that later on. I have a lot to say about this, so let's get into it. Now, as I hammered home in the intro, you don't really need to care about football to enjoy Rematch. At its core, this is a 3v3 or 4v4 or 5v5 multiplayer football arena game, kind of. Primarily 5v5 though, that is, I believe, the intended vision for the game, because that is currently what ranked is. But it is a pretty unique twist on what football normally is, which you could look at it and say, well, it just kind of looks like Rocket League, which was already football but with a twist. See, the thing is that here, there's a lot of twists mechanically. It's a very interesting way of taking the basic concept of football and using video game mechanics to create a really compelling multiplayer experience. No matter which mode you're playing in, you only play as a single player. And from that third-person perspective, as you are down on the field and just moving about, calling out plays, nailing your precision passes, or scoring goals, or when it's your turn, or if you choose to, be the goalkeeper and save your team constantly from embarrassment, it's a very different perspective from which to view the sport, compared to the usual bird's eye view of controlling full teams or some of the other wacky modes that we've had in football games in the past, to the point that it really doesn't feel much like a football game. Surprisingly though, while it might not feel like the FIFAs of years gone by, it feels considerably more real and authentic to actually playing football with friends than any other video game I've played before. And this might not surprise you at all, considering that these guys made Sifu. It feels like an arena fighting game with an objective and a helping hand of strategy and positioning in it. Now, there's one core complaint to lodge at the game, and that is, I think its skill floor is very high. It takes quite a while to actually understand how to do basic things in the game. However, once it does click, it's incredibly satisfying, and it matters in that comparison to a fighting game. This is a game about options. The gist of Rematch and what makes it so compelling and makes it a fighting game, basically, I think it's fair to say that you always have options for a light, medium, and heavy move, basically with how much strength you're going to move the ball, be that for a dribble, for a pass, or for taking a shot. You have a modifier for those options to make them aerial, and you have a sprint bar that can also modify the strength with which you do them and the speed with which you do them. This means that on a micro level, because there is a macro level to the game, again, that strategy portion of it, but in the micro level, you have to carefully choose what move you're going to use depending on the situation and your opponent. Be that because you need to do something faster than you expect, be that because you want to try and dribble against your opponent, or you want to rainbow flick over them because you suspect that what they're going to choose is to go down low. And if you've played any fighting game ever, you're basically looking at the typical rock, paper, scissors, multiplied by a couple times that most fighting games use as their basis. You have a series of options as the person with the ball, and you have a series of options as the person without it. A lot of those options will have advantages against others, or will be very good for certain circumstances, but can be easily beat out if the other person chooses the right option. But there is quite a lot of conversations here about frame advantage and about positioning and distance for certain things. And of course, what this all leads to is that fundamental feeling that you get from a good fighting game of outplaying your opponent, of doing a hard read and pulling off a, even in this game, quite mechanically complex series of inputs that will lead to something that looks and feels spectacular to pull off. The macro level of the game is that it's a team game. So even if in a lot of moments 1v1s feel like a fighting game in the way that you are selecting which option and reading your opponent, there's probably another 4 players there on the enemy team. This means that you can find yourself going up in a 3v1, and that's just even more exciting when you manage to dribble past all 3 of them, but you also have 4 other teammates in most cases that you can look for to position well, to pass the ball, and that's where some of that football fundamental comes in, of finding the right lines and the right angles and taking advantage of different things in order to move the ball to an advantageous situation where you can ideally score a goal against your opponent and execute these beautiful coordinated plays. And if through that description you think, wow, this game seems pretty complicated, yes, it is, but it is very rewarding, which is what I demand from a game. When it's going to ask this much of a player, it needs to give you something in return. And what Rematch offers in return is a feeling that's not quite like anything else out there. The complexity goes beyond just all of the options you have and some of the difficulty that you can find in executing those options when facing off against an opponent, but even in coordinating those plays in long distances and choosing between all of the different options you have to get there, including things like just the precision of where you're going to pass. There's no auto lock on to just pass to a teammate. No, you just throw the ball out there and hopefully you have aimed it well enough and predicted the movement of your teammate well enough to put the ball straight at their feet. Equally, if you don't have the ball when you're either attacking or defending, it is crucial for the strategic part of the game that your positioning is on point, including accurately marking the players of the enemy team when you're on defense, even if you don't interact with the ball at all, which I know can sound very boring, but it is integral that you cover the different lines that the enemy team could take. But that otherwise kind of boring feeling can be very rewarding when you accurately cover a part of the field, limit the opponent's options and either force them into making a mistake, or you intercept a crucial pass that turns into a game-winning run. Just the same as it is important to use the things in your toolkit when you are on offense to find the correct line and play around your teammate to give them different options and have a good vision of the field and know exactly where you should be headed to either distract the enemy team and create an opening, or to take advantage of other distractions and take the opening for yourself. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in, and I'm not gonna lie, if you know a bit about football, that does help in actually getting to grips with some of the macro in the game. But when you put all of these systems together, from aiming your passes to aiming your shots to accurately defending to learning to use defensive stance, which you do by using the left trigger, to body block some of your opponents when you're marking them, or to accurately defend or to recover stamina. Every little intricacy that you discover from the game, and down to things like using the walls of the arena to pass the ball to yourself in fancy little ways that lead to some absolute highlight plays. As you keep exploring more and more in the game and go deeper and deeper into the mind games that happen between you and the enemy team, the more satisfying it becomes. And all of these things, from the sound design and the way that the music pauses when you take a shot, to the sound of hitting the ball or defending, to just the way that the overall control of the game feels, makes every moment that you're playing it feel very, very precise and satisfying in the way that kind of a good fighting game should. Now that is a heaping helping of praise onto Rematch, because I really, really like the game. And now comes the big question: why can't I actually recommend it? As I stated at the beginning of this video, I've played a lot of the betas. I've spent some time playing Rematch, and I think it's a really good video game. Unfortunately, it's not in the best state here at launch. Now, there are conflicting reports as to what's actually happening to the game, but I think that the easy way of describing it is server issues and latency. And having come from that very intricate explanation of just how precise a lot of the things need to be in this game, having it kind of disconnect or teleport through time with a lot of things is basically unacceptable and ruins the entirety of the game's feel. You will, on your screen, see yourself do something for the game to kind of rubber band back and decide that actually it was the opponent who controlled the ball and now they have possession of it, and you'll just be confused as to how that even happened. You will be playing goalie and you will stop a goal on your screen and then see that actually they scored a goal. Some things have already been patched, but during the first 2 days, there was a very common bug where you would score a goal, and instead of possession being handed over to the enemy team, you know, as it should, you would just start with possession of the ball on the next play again, leading to potential just sweeps since you don't have like a neutral option to give the ball to the other team. Now that's been fixed, but the server latency issues are very much there, as well as a lot of the stability of the game. It's very curious that during the first 2 beta tests, I had a ton of crashes, but the game is just so good that I kept playing. I just kept restarting and playing more of it. And during beta test 3, those crashes went down significantly. And now, during the final launch of the game, those crashes are back up to the point where I've had about 7 crashes, and 3 of those were in ranked. So I'm just can't play ranked. Why would I do that? Why would I play that? But of course, it's not just you crashing that can ruin your ranked experience. Sure, you can get into a ranked match and then have the game crash, and that feels pretty bad. Feels bad even if you're not in ranked. But what's worse is that you can constantly see your teammates disconnect, disappear, and crash in the middle of matches, leaving you at what is basically an insurmountable difference if you're playing 4v5 or 3v5. And because it's ranked, it's not going to get filled by another random player. This is, in case you're wondering, not good, not fun. I don't like that. So to me, the ranked mode is basically dead. This game has launched without the ranked mode working. Even if it technically works, not in this state, not when so many people are constantly DCing from matches or with the server latency issues in a game that requires this much precision and just split-second timings to get things done. Now, here is the obvious kicker. This might be fixed by the time that you are watching this video, in which case, I wholeheartedly recommend Rematch. I have been testing the game at the normal launch for people who don't go for the advanced access, and I will say it hasn't crashed in 3 hours, and the server latency seems better, but it's still a little iffy, and it still disconnects, and sometimes I launch the game, and it doesn't let me connect at all. So your mileage may vary, and I do strongly recommend that you check beforehand if the game is stable whenever you're watching this video. But I do think it is important to mention that these issues are there, and they might continue to be there for a little bit, you know? And we really haven't even gotten into some of the other issues that I suspect people will have. Rematch is a game that costs money up front for what is exclusively a multiplayer game. I don't have much of an issue with that. We've seen it before, and we've seen it be very successful. To be fair, it's also available on other things like Game Pass, so you don't necessarily need to pay up front to start playing the game. The problem is that on top of that, it is a game that has a pretty deep monetization system involved. Obviously, nothing pay to win of any description really, but if you're interested in cosmetics, some of them pretty cool, you will have to pay extra money for those cosmetics, including the season pass. And once again, I think that this can be a pretty fair monetization model, even though on the surface, when you just look at it, you're like, wow, that's, you know, a lot of monetization. Payment upfront plus then season passes and an additional cosmetic shop on top of that. Although it is worth mentioning that if you complete the entire pass, you do get enough of the premium currency to get the next pass, or, you know, enough premium currency to maybe pick up something from the store, which I think at least is pretty fair, and it feels rewarding to players who put in the time. And if you think that's too much, I get it, and we'll have to see how the monetization model shakes out and exactly how many things are gated. For now, most of the things that I would want or that I think matter, which are primarily things like the arenas, the stadiums that you play in, and a lot of the customization options are pretty much in the battle pass, and I think that's relatively fair. For me, what is more worrying is the idea of having the seasons be something that is strictly time gated, and that's something that I think we should move away from. I would argue that in general, but at least at the moment, especially in a game that costs money up front, I don't think we should have time gated seasons for the season passes. Instead, I think something like what Halo Infinite did way back when, or what Helldivers 2 does with its war bonds, is much better. I just think it's very counterproductive to offer somebody, you know, however many months down the line, the option to pay money up front for a game, knowing that they are going to be locked out of a lot of the rewards that people who started from the beginning are. It's just not a type of marketing deal that I enjoy. It's not something I think we should promote in the industry and how we incentivize players to play the game early. And again, while I don't like it in general, I can stomach it more in a free-to-play game, but in a game that's asking you for money up front, I don't really like it. It doesn't sit right with me, and I think that being able to go back to previous season passes and earn maybe your favorite stadium that might never return otherwise, or might be rotated into the shop for money that you just have to pay up front, isn't that cool. Having said that, all of these issues, including those monetization things, are things that can be fixed over time with patches, with new decisions, with community feedback, which I hope that this counts as. There's a lot that can be done to fix up where the game is, and we've seen plenty of games have very rough launches and then come back stronger than ever. And I'm hoping Sloclap can pull that off, because while it has been very successful, and plenty of people have jumped into the early access so far, as the game goes out into its general public launch, I really want to say that I'm worried about how quickly they're going to fix some of these, honestly, game-ruining issues when it comes to that server latency and the way certain things feel, the disconnects, the crashes, the overall stability of the game, and how it's going to affect the experience of people who are jumping in hyped to play because they got their hands on those betas and enjoyed it tremendously. And this isn't even addressing some of the other issues that are still outlying. For example, we don't have crossplay here at day one, and they want to implement it as soon as possible, but I would love to play with some family members that I grew up playing, you know, real football with, and I can't because I'm on PC and they're on PlayStation or on Xbox. And not having crossplay at launch kind of sucks, but not having an estimate for when that's coming is even worse. It really is something that can halt the growth of the game here at day one, and I hope that they fix it, because that's why I spent the better half of this video saying that I love Rematch and I think it's brilliantly designed and scratches an itch that basically no other game does at the moment. So please keep an eye on Rematch if you are a fan of multiplayer games. I guess live service games, in a sense. Doesn't really feel that much like a live service game. Don't expect it to like have transformative updates, more just seasons and cosmetics or maybe events. We're not going to get basketball put into the game for season 2 or something. But if you're into multiplayer games that you can either have a ton of fun with your friends after work, something more casual, or if you're looking for something very unique to get into that might just scratch your fighting game plus something else itch like it does for me, which, yes, I'm a huge fighting game fan. In case, like, if you're new to the channel, you might not know that, but if you're not new, like, have you seen my backgrounds? Anyways, I think it's just a fantastic game that I'm really excited to play, and very rarely anymore do I just keep playing a game despite how many times it crashes on me, and that's a testament to the quality of it. I just hope they can fix everything else around that so that it actually works well. Make sure to keep an eye on this space, by the way, and if you do enjoy what I do, make sure to subscribe. Maybe now, by the end of the video, I've earned your subscription. And I will do my best to try and come back and report on Rematch, probably in a month and a half or so when we're at Season 1, just to make sure that if they have fixed everything, I want to do my part in making a video where I say that they have, and the game is fantastic, and that you should go play it. No reservations. For now, though, keep an eye on what the patch notes say, maybe check out the community feedback, see if since I uploaded this video, those issues have been fixed before you fully commit and buy like a 4-pack for you and all your friends, because that might just lead to a pretty frustrating experience, and it's extra frustrating because when it works, it's really damn good. Go out there, enjoy some great games. Hopefully, Rematch soon, TM. And I'll see you again very soon.